It's a dangerous phase for Bitcoin right now because it is in another period of vertical accumulation. But if it does pop, that 100,000 target is very, very close by, and everybody and their grandmother knows it. Take a look at this right here of Ethereum holders being asked, why is Bitcoin almost at 100K, but you're still broke? Please tell me the truth. And the reality is that you're just an Ethereum holder, right? So, there's still a lot to unpack here. Bitcoin's dominance is still very high. Ethereum itself is still doing poorly against Bitcoin. We're going to be touching on all of that stuff, including the altcoin market and traditional finance as usual in this YouTube video. So if you are excited for it, do me a favor and smash up those likes as you are coming in here. Double check that you're subscribed, and obviously you get a ton of free cash when you start trading using these links in the description. So if that sounds good to you, then check them out. But if we keep it locked to this chart, look, it's pretty straightforward what we're seeing here. Obviously, if you're interested in these links, only use them if you're not from a restricted region. But if we come back to the chart here, what we're really starting to see is a quite clear setup that we've already seen on this chart multiple times already, right? Where the market kind of continues to trend higher, but it just trends higher a little bit slowly. Here's the main trend looking something a little bit like this. You pause that trend, and then you continue it, and then you pause, and then you continue it. And right now we're in that pause phase again. But obviously what makes this pause phase particularly interesting is the fact that we keep on punching in higher lows. We haven't quite set in higher highs quite yet here, but I think overall we're clearly in an upward channel here. The last two times this did ended up popping to the upside for Bitcoin, and not by a little bit. I mean, if we measure it from low to high, this was a 4% move, and it happened very, very quickly. And then on this occasion here, this was also a 14% move that happened very quickly. So this is the thing, is that if something like this were to happen again, Bitcoin only needs to move up by 10% from its current price in order to get up to the $100,000 mark. And I think that's where things could get really interesting for Bitcoin here, because we've stalled out just below this resistance zone. And I think that's what's particularly interesting. The dollar itself has been seeing a little bit of a drop now, coming back into this major zone of support. We were looking at this for quite a bit on this YouTube channel, and we'll come back to this in just a little bit. But, what this could mean for Bitcoin definitely could be quite exciting, and we'll touch on that in a second as well. But we've also got these sideways ranges that we need to be aware of, right? We've got a couple of kind of key horizontal levels. Ghost, nay, Laney. We got a key psychological levels that are very, very important in this market, and one of them is going to be here at about 91.4, where we're seeing repeated resistance coming in at this price level, and Bitcoin struggling here. So I think that if Bitcoin is able to get above this level, that's now a pretty clear invalidation, where things could get very, very exciting for Bitcoin in terms of being bullish. We've already faked out above it a couple of times, but now that we've been kind of gravitating around this level a little bit more, I wouldn't expect many more fake outs. I wouldn't expect any more fake outs, actually. I think that if we do get above this line now with some real confidence, with some volume, I think that actually we might stay above the line for some time, and we might be able to get significantly higher than the line. Now, on the downside, we've got our support at about $86,000, and we can really stretch this all the way down to about 85, where these wicks come in. I like keeping the line right about over here at about 86.2. We've seen Bitcoin continuously finding support off this zone at the beginning of entering this range. We haven't done so recently. If Bitcoin comes back down, this is obviously going to be that invalidation, but it's also going to mean that we're losing this more vertical accumulation zone, which I think could actually be quite bearish for the market. And that's why the first thing I said in this video is that we're at a dangerous place in this market now for Bitcoin, because if it does pump up, you've got upside potential up to 100K, potentially even significantly higher. But if it drops down, there's some really good reason to expect that this market could be correcting quite deep now, and there's some good reason to expect that Bitcoin might be falling closer to the 70K range. And I want to talk to you about that for a minute here. And first of all, we just need to understand that it's very easy to trigger this, right? It would be very easy to start a big drop because the market didn't find any resistance on the way up, and so I'm not expecting any support on the way down. That's why a drop would be potentially intense, but why would it be quick to start? I think just the fact that we haven't been able to get above this resistance level yet, and the fact that we've got, now this kind of upward slanting support level, which these kind of support zones are not very sustainable. I mean, if the market just shows a little bit of weakness temporarily, that's going to be enough to really upset this and send this thing lower. And it's like I said, if this thing does start dropping lower, I mean, all of the price history that Bitcoin has ever produced above its all-time high have happened inside of this circle, which is to say that there's not much price history for Bitcoin above this previous all-time high at $74,000. $100,000. And if Bitcoin does end up falling back down, it's probably not going to find support for quite some time. And I think that's really important to keep in mind, because obviously we've got, some quite high readings across the market from various different perspectives. If we look at this fear and greed index, we're still sitting up here at 83. Yesterday was 90, which is the highest reading that we've had in a very, very long time. And obviously that puts us in very, bullish, greedy territory here on the fear and greed index. We're also seeing similar things from our open interest, which we've been looking a little bit at. I don't know if I still have the chart open, but we can take a super, super quick peek at the open interest here for Bitcoin. Look at this. We got 1.2 billion open on the open interest here, which is absolutely huge as Bitcoin is continuing to set these new all-time highs. And so naturally, yeah, I would expect that, if there is going to be some sort of a long squeeze, now is a perfect time to pull that off. And that's something I've been saying for a while. Now, I don't think that that's actually necessarily going to happen. And we'll talk about, the shorter term support indicators in just a minute, because, they do suggest that Bitcoin might actually be able to keep going up. But if this thing does start getting sour, we just need to understand how quickly and how big it'd be. It could be surprising that we drop, but it shouldn't be surprising how much we drop. And I think that's a really big, important difference, right? I don't mind if you get surprised that we're dropping, because, we are actually very aggressive. You shouldn't be surprised anyway, but I don't mind. But I will be very disappointed if any of you guys watching this channel are surprised by how much it drops, if it does start dropping. Because we have known for a long time that there's no support here, and we know that altcoins are probably going to get a similar treatment. Altcoins, if Bitcoin is dropping, altcoins tend to drop really hard. And if we take a look at that picture right here, Bitcoin's dominance has managed to peak at about 61.1. It's now come back down to 59.6, but it's punched in yet another higher low. And if it does continue to go on up from here, then we are just going to continue to see Bitcoin continuing to just gain supremacy and dominance in this market, which I think is a really big deal. Now, if we zoom in a little bit and talk about some of the good things going for this market, I mean, one of the best things is that Bitcoin has paused now for some time. And that's allowed some of its key indicators to really catch up. This EMA ribbon here on the 4-hour is spectacular in terms of showing us whether momentum is bullish or bearish. And right now, it's overwhelmingly showing us a bullish picture, which I think is absolutely fantastic. If we take a look at this on the daily time frame, we've seen a lot of this support catch up, and it now lines up with the previous all-time high at the bottom, so 74K, all the way up to about 81. And I know that there are a lot of people looking for Bitcoin finding some support in the $80,000 range. I personally don't know how or why they're coming up with those types of theories. I mean, I would love to see Bitcoin bouncing off some higher price levels, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I just don't see how Bitcoin can get down to 80K and then stop, given that its only good support levels are literally, pretty much a further $10,000 lower than that. We've looked at this from a couple of different indicator perspectives here on shorter and mid-term timeframes, even long-term here, and I think what looks very, very clear for Bitcoin is just the fact that, we've been able to establish some really good support in this range now. The 4-hour is telling us that if Bitcoin does end up coming down to grab some liquidity here, we could manage to stay bullish. So this is also going to be very interesting for those of you that, you actually, because a lot of people are actually going to be getting more bullish seeing this in the market, and they'll be getting more bullish for a good reason. The big reason that they're going to be getting more bullish in this particular market is just seeing that Bitcoin continues to consolidate at its all-time high, and it's not getting a drop down. And so if it does come back down and grab some of this liquidity with that big green Ichimoku cloud on the 4-hour, for example, that could actually be very, very exciting and a great fill for a lot of people that are probably looking to trade some longs in this market. And that's why I say, for me, the invalidation is going to be below this wick, because I think that's where a lot of stop losses are going to be. I think that a lot of people are going to be trying to look to maybe build up some longs over here, but place their stop losses below this wick here. And so that's going to be, where I would start to get very concerned, is if Bitcoin kind of gets below 84.5. If it gets down to about 84.5, that's probably when I'd say, all right, we're probably dropping quite hard from here. And then speaking of that drop, I mean, it's 71K, right? I mean, that's going to be Bitcoin's best zone of support. It has been for a while, and 67 remains there as well. Now, the beautiful thing about these levels is they're just so far away from the all-time high, right? I mean, from the 93.5K all-time high that we've already set, that's going to be a 23.5% move down to 71K, and it's going to be a 28% move down to 67K, which are both really nice, respectable drops inside of a bull market. It would be very much, enough to send this market going much, much higher, in my opinion. So I'm quite open to that. Obviously, we spent a lot of of time talking about the bearish side, and that's because on the bullish side, if Bitcoin does start breaking its all-time high, then we already know what's going to happen. We're probably going to see Bitcoin's dominance continue to shoot up, because that's what we've seen every time Bitcoin sets a new all-time high. And we're probably going to see Bitcoin moving up rapidly. And I think the fact that Bitcoin has now consolidated under $100,000, and the fact that we've actually spent quite some time here, it's now been about 7 days that we've been spending under 94K. I think that this could be starting to build up into some sort of consolidation range, where actually if Bitcoin does start targeting 100K, it's also going to be strong enough to break 100K. That's what I think we're looking at now, because we've been able to consolidate here. Put it this way, put differently, at this stage, I'm going to be more and more surprised over time if Bitcoin does find resistance at 100K. I think that we're already starting to find resistance, and I think that's why we're starting to see the market really slow down. And so I would expect that if Bitcoin can get above these ranges, then the resistance level is going to be complete. Now, here's something really exciting. We're in a new area. If you value common sense, if you value sovereignty and freedom, you are getting paid. And here are a couple of the huge screenshots of my current trades that I'm still in right now. If you're looking to trade these markets, you already know the deal, ladies and gents. Bybit is by far the best place to be in this game, and they're going to give you up to 30K in free money that you can trade with when you start trading using my link on screen. Those of you, by the way, that are VIP members on Bybit, you're also going to be getting access to the exclusive Bybit debit card, which you can spend globally, anywhere in the world where they accept. I keep forgetting if this is the MasterCard or Visa logo. I'm pretty sure this is the MasterCard logo. Anywhere in the world that they accept MasterCard, you're going to be able to spend this Bybit card, which is absolutely sick. And all you need to do is just be VIP on Bybit, right? So there are a couple of requirements. You can pause the video if you want to see them. But really, it just comes down to holding a certain amount of money or trading a certain amount on Bybit. And the requirements, not everybody is going to meet them, but quite a few people will probably meet them. And you're going to get a free debit card for that, which you can spend anywhere. So that's super, super cool. So check them out if you're interested. These are just some of the profits that I'm in right now, over $200,000 made from Bitcoin, from the same trade that I'm still in right now. Same on TRX. This TRX position is actually doing significantly better than this screenshot right now. It's probably sitting at like 14 or 1500% profit right now, which is insane. So if you want to start trading, then of course check them out. Links down below. And Blowfin's going to be a great alternative to Bybit, because they're giving you very aggressive bonuses. I mean, the bonuses that you get on Bybit, they're much more aggressive on Blowfin. So just check them out. If you've already signed up, then you need to start trading. You need to deposit and start trading to get your bonus. But that will be how you get in. And obviously only check them out if you're not from a restricted region, if your country's laws allow you to use these platforms here. But here's something very, very interesting. OCC releases notice saying that they're preparing to list spot Bitcoin ETF options, which is definitely very interesting, just showing more adoption in traditional finance. So that's great. We've got Ash Crypto here showing that $500 million has been sent from the treasury, from the Tether treasury to Binance. And the reason that this is interesting is obviously if there's a lot of US dollars moving onto exchanges, then what can a US dollar do with crypto, right? The only thing a US dollar can do is buy. And so I think that's why a lot of people get excited when USDT starts getting printed. And we covered this a couple of days ago, and it looks like now either the same USDT or something different is being sent to an exchange as well. So we could be seeing some increased buying action. We've seen stuff like this happen a lot, and in my experience, it does typically lead to pumps. But it doesn't lead to anything crazy. So, it's just cool to see, but nothing insane. Lark Davis here, pro-Bitcoin president is still not priced in. Gary Gensler resigning or getting fired is not priced in. A strategic Bitcoin reserve is not priced in. So, I kind of disagree. I think that these two things are probably starting to get priced in. If they're not already, they probably are already priced in. In fact, I think that the biggest evidence for Bitcoin being priced for this pro-Bitcoin president being priced in is the fact that Bitcoin has been stable since Trump got elected. We initially saw a big move, but since then it's now been a week and Bitcoin's been stable. So it seems pretty priced in to me. I will say, however, that I don't think Trump is actually a pro-crypto president. I think it would be incredibly hard to get a pro-Bitcoin president because in order to be pro-Bitcoin, you have to be anti-dollar, and really you have to be anti-federal government and a bunch of other things. So I don't really know if that's going to be happening. But, as far as what we are going to be getting in this lifetime, and especially in this administration, I think a lot of things have actually been priced in. I'm curious to know why doesn't think that's the case. And then as for a strategic Bitcoin reserve, I don't even know if that's going to be happening. I know Trump said it, but, you know, Trump's still a politician, and politicians talk, but they don't necessarily do everything they say they're going to do. So we'll see. These things would be very bullish if they're true. I just don't fully agree. Bitcoin archive here. MicroStrategy just demonstrated that you can put $4.5 billion into Bitcoin without moving the market. These signs of market maturity will encourage bigger players like the sovereign wealth funds to buy Bitcoin. This is actually a really big deal, right? Bitcoin has become a market that you can really move large sums of money into now in a way that you could never do before. And I agree with this kind of sentiment because of that. I actually think that this is a really big deal, and it could be, I don't know if it will, but it could be very bullish for Bitcoin. The bottom line is that it just allows big money to come in. And so you just got to ask yourself, does big money already want to come in, or has it already wanted to come in, but it just wasn't able to for a long time? And that, as far as I know, is a resounding yes. Actually, big money has wanted to come in for a very long time. And the proof that this market is so stable, you can take big amounts in and out without really hurting it, without moving it too much. That's probably going to make people get quite interested in getting some exposure here. So really good stuff here across the board, ladies and gents. A very interesting market. It's like I said, we got a couple of invalidations, and if we can break them, then, you know, I think that we could be rallying really hard. I still want to stay very aware of the risk of downside in this market, because if it does start, it's probably going to get very intense and it's going to catch a lot of people by surprise. We don't want to be caught by surprise if that does happen. But if it doesn't happen, we've still got, you know, some key highs that we can be breaking to give us some idea of reaching that all-time high. You know, as I speak, we're right on that line right now, so it's just a kind of wait and see type thing, but that's going to be interesting. Obviously, traditional finance is very important, and it's been doing largely nothing. We've seen the S&P 500 pull back actually down to a nice zone of support and then bounced off it, which is absolutely great. I mean, that's a really strong sign for the S&P 500. We've seen nothing reflecting for Bitcoin, which I would say is a good thing, because I don't want Bitcoin to be too closely tied to the S&P 500. You know, clearly there is a broad correlation here where if the S&P 500 is strong, then Bitcoin is probably going to be strong as well, at least on a more broad sense. You know, right now that doesn't seem to be working too well for Bitcoin, but I'd say that's actually a good thing. And if the S&P can pick up some strength, I would expect Bitcoin to kind of get carried up with it. Gold, you know, is continuing to drop, but only from very impressive all-time highs, so nothing bad about that at all. And then the dollar, you know, has moved up past its resistance level, and we were talking about this already on this YouTube channel. It looks like it's been going very strong. I personally think that it's kind of time for the dollar to start chilling a little bit. I don't really see a reason for the dollar to gain this much strength on this chart here, and it has broken all of its resistance levels, so it would be quite a big deal. It would be the biggest reading ever for the dollar, actually, if the dollar did manage to get back up to this 114 reading on this index. I don't think that that's going to happen right now or soon, but we are at that breakout point right now. If it doesn't happen, and if instead the dollar starts reversing and starts trending the other direction, then that's probably going to be really bullish for Bitcoin. So far, we've seen nothing really interesting happen with the dollar, no particular effects for Bitcoin from the dollar. I think that's going to change. I don't know when that's going to change, but clearly we're at a very big pivot point right now. So really interesting time in the market, ladies and gents. I mean, I just can't tell you how much I'm pumped up for this thing right now. I think things are just so interesting right now in this market. Obviously, now's the best time to be getting all the free money available to you with the links in the description below. This has been working out so well for those of you that have started to trade and gotten the free money, because you can continue to make money with those free bits of cash that they give you, and you can just withdraw those profits. That's really cool, worth checking out if you're not from a restricted region. And then taking that a step further, Bybit, if you want that debit card, that's also obviously going to be worth checking out. And if you want to work with me directly, you want access to my very exclusive one-to-one 12-week program, you can reach out using this link on screen here. It is worth noting that it is an expensive package, so this is going to be a serious investment. It's going to be for very serious people, but if that sounds like you, then feel free to reach out. With that, ladies and gents, I'm going to be heading off. I really hope you've enjoyed this one. You know what to do if you have. Hit up the like, subscribe, click the bell, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.